we're kind of still in an ammo shortage. I know it doesn't seem like it as much now. You go into stores, it looks like there's a lot of ammo on the shelves now. It's starting to come back. I know there's a lot of people that are waiting, thinking the prices are going to keep coming down. But I've got a report here that basically I just wanted to kind of discuss some things, make sure that your people are aware of really kind of what's going on. So this particular article, there was an article that was written in the New York Times. It's going to war. Good news. The United States is 13 years behind in ammunition production. So the summary of this, the Biden administration this month proposed a record-breaking $842 billion budget for the Department of Defense. Missile and munition stockpiles are dwindling as the U.S. continues to send aid packages to Ukraine. Since production capacity changed after the Cold War, the U.S. can no longer keep up with wartime demands. We haven't actually, since the Cold War kind of, petered out and dwindled down in the 80s, production of most things has slowed. Now, development's continued, and production has continued to keep up with what I would call peacetime demands, or the low simmering level of conflict that we've had in the Middle East. But even with that, it was kind of a break-even scenario. We'd use some, we'd produce it, and we'd kind of break even. The Middle East was not a full-blown heavy conflict, with battle lines, things like that. Not like the Ukraine is. The United States' commitment to support the Ukraine against the Russian invasion appears to have rattled the stability of the domestic stockpile of missiles and munitions. Just some things in here. It looks like we're going to be sending U.S. Patriot air defense systems to the Ukraine, along with 200,000 rounds of artillery, rockets, and tank rounds. And let's see, the U.S. has sent Ukraine so many stockpiled Stinger missiles that it will take 13 years of production at current capacity levels to replace them. The Javelin missile systems will take 5 years at last year's production rates to replace the number of missiles that we've sent to Ukraine in the last 10 months. Currently, the U.S. produces just over 14,000 rounds of 155 millimeter ammunition, so artillery shells. Now, 14,000 rounds sounds like a lot, and that's how much we produce, every month. The Ukrainian forces have been firing that many rounds in the span of 48 hours. So, true battle zone conflict demands on munitions are huge, and our current production levels cannot keep up. So basically, our current stockpiles for our own self-defense are being dwindled down to very unsafe levels, and we just don't have the production capacity for it. Ammunition availability might be the single most important factor that determines the course of the war in 2023. The United States has rarely seen production shortages in ammunition and missiles to the degree that we currently face. While there was a brief precision missile shortage in 2016 following the skirmishes in Libya and Iraq, the U.S. has largely been engaged in short-term, high-intensity fights, such as the Persian Gulf War, or prolonged lower-intensity missions like in Afghanistan, which allowed the stockpiles to be rebuilt back up because they weren't getting these huge demands. But now, as full-blown conflict is going on, and we're now supporting that, the ability to keep up production, it's just not there. It's listed that this could become a crisis, with the front line now mostly stationary. Artillery has become the most important combat arm. Basically, they're proposing huge amounts in spending, and this is for the heavy weapon systems. We're also supporting small arms ammunition, so the production capacity for that is going to be pretty much completely geared toward wartime production. I just read a report recently in Europe, the Europe ammunition market. If hostilities would cease right now, it will take the European ammunition supply about 15 years to equalize to normal supply and demand. So that's in Europe. In the USA, we've had ammunition shortages for several years. So let's keep in mind several things here. We had a global pandemic that caused production shutdowns and stoppages. There's been supply chain impacts, not all of which have been completely alleviated yet. Civil unrest, remember back 2020, late 2020, caused panic buying. Lots of new shooters because of the civil unrest means that there's a lot more new demand out there. Government threats of gun control has resulted in a lot of panic buying. And there's a war going on, so all the primary ammo producers are working to fulfill wartime needs. So currently, you may find ammunition on the shelves, but that's because there's been a short-term, what I would call drop in civilian demand. So the limited production that makes it into the civilian market has been allowed to kind of build back up, and it appears that there's a lot of ammunition available. If buying starts to pick up again like it did just a year or two ago, you're going to find empty shelves again. So I'm not saying go out there and just start buying everything up, because I don't want to trigger, that scenario. But if you're waiting for the prices to really drop to, those good old days of 2018, 2017, it's not going to happen. So if you have ammunition needs, I would work on trying to fill those needs now.